Hello everybody, welcome to my RC Plane channel. I'm James, and today I'm going to be doing something a little bit different than what I typically do, which is build RC planes from balsa kits. Today I'm going to be assembling I guess plastic scale pilot kits from Williams Brothers. Now I wanted to talk a little bit about these kits and their origin, but I did want to mention, obviously, you can go buy a pilot already made for you. They're easy enough to find on places like Amazon or eBay or whatever, and they're okay. But I wanted to mention these other kits, or these kits that are available, that were produced by Williams Brothers. And you can see here, I kind of bring it up to you so you can kind of see the logo. It's Williams Brothers model products. So these guys were around for a very, very, very long time. In fact, if you go to their website, you can read about their history. And the company started as far back as, I think, 1940s, in that era sometime. I guess it was two brothers who decided to start making different things for RC plane kind of accessories and such. They made pilot kits like this. They made things like gun kits for World War I and World War II planes. They made actual model kits for airplanes and such. They made engine kits and so on and so forth. And they were around for quite some time. Now the thing is, like a lot of these companies that were supplying us hobbyists, this RC plane hobbyists, with the different things that we liked for our hobby, a lot of these companies have disappeared for a variety of reasons. And if you go to the website for Williams Brothers, what you'll see is they still have a website, and it looks relatively modern, but if you read it, what you'll see on there is that, for one thing, it hasn't been updated at the time of this video that I'm making now. Their website has not been updated since, I think, like 2020. So that's about 4 years or so. And if you read on it, you can kind of see that they had gone through some tough times, and they were in the process of trying to get things sort of restarted. And there's a little history there, but apparently it looks to me like they just never really got it going again, which is pretty sad. But you can still see a lot of their products on the website. Unfortunately, they're all sold out, and I don't think you can buy any of them from their website. So the thing about it, though, is that these kits are really cool. They have a bunch of different kind of scales and different model types and such, and you can still get these online from a variety of places. There's still, I think, a lot of these things out there, especially like if you go to eBay, you can see a lot of these examples that you can purchase. The bad thing about that is that they're getting pretty expensive. A kit like this is going to be around 20 bucks, and all it is like a couple pieces of plastic. But again, you're paying for an item that is no longer available, that I guess it would be considered vintage and kind of a classic thing. Originally, like for example, this one, I just took the price tag off it. I think it was like about $6, and this one probably wasn't much more than that. But in any case, that's unfortunate, but luckily they're still around. And if you're interested in assembling a kit like this, go purchase one and have fun with it. So what I'd do in this video is I would assemble one of these, and we're going to paint it, and it's a pretty simple process. There's only 3 parts in here in this one, for example. This one is a sportsman pilot. And this guy looks sort of like a World War II or World War I pilot. And then they have like a jet pilot. They have a few different different styles. Actually, this one says 950 when this one was originally sold. And then it's really cool. In the back of them here, they have some instructions. So we can take a look at some of these. They tell you, how to paint the eyes. This one has a set of goggles in here, little goggle set. And of course it tells you how to paint that and some other building tips. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and set this guy aside because I'm not going to be using this one. I'm going to be building this one here. Again, it's a 1/5 scale sportsman pilot. And we'll pop it out of the package here. And we're going to have to cut this open. Yeah, not much to it, In fact, it just glues together like this, and then you put this on like that. And I don't know, maybe I'll put some kind of a strap or some kind of a frame for these little goggles. But yeah, it's very simple assembly. And the way I'm going to be putting it together, I'm just going to be using some Tamiya extra thin plastic for glue for plastic, and then I'm going to be filling in. Usually there's going to be a seam here that I don't want to see, so I'm going to fill it in and kind of work that out. I'm going to use some Tamiya putty for that. And then once it's all put together, I'm going to go ahead and paint it. I'll prime it, and we'll give it some paint, and I'll paint his shirt and some of the face features and the hair and such, and we'll be done with that. And the thing about it is that, you know, when you mount it in your airplane, obviously you can glue it down in your cockpit somehow. But for me, for what I'm going to be using this for, which is going to be my Stingray, I have a Balsa USA Stingray 120 that I'm building right now. I'm actually going to screw it in my canopy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue a piece of wood, like a piece of balsa wood, inside here. I'm going to kind of sandwich it down inside of the pilot. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to just put a screw in from the bottom, and I'm going to screw it into the bottom of my canopy like that. You can kind of see there's some little parts on here, flash and things that are from the mold. We'll just go ahead and clean this off so we get a nice contact between the two pieces. Carefully not to cut your finger. And then one thing to keep in mind, you know, this guy is going to be flying by at 1,000,000 miles an hour in your plane. So you're not going to see too much detail, but like anything else, it's just kind of fun to do this stuff, you know. At least for me it is. Okay, so let me go ahead and I want to find a piece of wood, like I mentioned, to stick inside here first, and then we'll put them together. Got some scrap balsa here. And we're not going to see this, so it doesn't really matter. But I want it big enough because, like I said, I'm going to be putting a screw through here. And, you know, planes shake a lot, and you don't want the pilot to lose his head. Now, I don't think I need to get too crazy with this, so I'm just going to go ahead and I'm just going to use a thick CA to glue this piece of wood in here. And I'll stick some down in here. Really can't go anywhere. Okay, well there we go. I'm going to go ahead and put it together now. Had a little bit of a fit issue with the wood going into this back half, so I just trimmed a little bit, but this guy will go like this. And I'll put a little bit more on here. Now, the thing about these kits is they are kind of older. They're not at the quality of something that you would buy today, like a modern plastic scale kit. So they don't have the best fit. But again, I think for our purposes, for building for RC planes, that's not our main goal. Let's go ahead and give this guy a little bit of a hair tonic up here on this one seam. And I'll just work my way around this seam here. His ear is really wacky looking. We're going to clean them up. So now let's go ahead and tape them together. Okay, well I'm going to go ahead and let this sit for a while, let this glue cure up, and then we'll come take the tape off and we'll work on the seams. Yeah, and I guess while we wait for this to cure, I'll go ahead and clean up his little goggles here. I let this sit overnight and cure. So let's go ahead and pull off the tape. Looks like this guy was held captive or something. You know, as I looked at this guy, kind of looks to me like Roger Moore, James Bond, you know, like 1977, 78. He's got that look to him. I don't know. Maybe we'll just call him Roger. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and now I'm going to clean off around the seams. Let me grab an X-Acto blade, and basically all I'm going to do is just scrape off sort of the roughness around that seam, and then we'll also sand it. And then once I got all the junk off of it, we'll fill in all the little, you can kind of see here, we'll fill in all the little gaps with our putty. All right, so he's pretty well cleaned up now. I do have some gaps, as you can see in there. Just a few little minor gaps, which again, aren't that big of a deal, but I'm just gonna go ahead and deal with them because I'm just kind of showing you some of the techniques that I'm using. So again, this is putty. This is Tamiya white putty, and squirt some of this stuff out. This stuff will cure pretty quickly, and I'm just gonna work it into some of these areas. Kind of fill them in a little bit. Then we'll go back and we'll sand it again. All right, we'll let this cure for a little bit, then we'll come back and do our final sanding, and then we'll get to painting. Okay, so now for the fun part, we're going to go ahead and give them a little paint job. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to primer, put a black primer on them first, and that will sort of unify the surface and kind of fill things in for you a little bit. Some of these minor scratches and things, the primer sort of helps kind of eliminate some of that. So for a primer, you can just use, you can go buy a black primer or any kind of primer you want. I'm going to use black. You can use something like this. This is just Testor's flat black, but I'm going to actually use a airbrush. So I have an airbrush set up over here, and it's got a little bit of lacquer thinner in it. And I'm going to be using, for my primer, I'm just going to be using this Mr. Finishing Surfacer 1500 Black for my primer. And this is a solvent-based primer. It's not water-based. And then I'm going to thin it with this Mr. Color Leveling Thinner. And what this does, this actually kind of slows down the drying process, and it's very helpful. So in any case, this stuff is kind of like if you build scale plastic models, you'll probably know a lot about this type of thing. And again, none of it, you don't have to do that for this. You can just go to the store, buy some spray cans and prime it black, or you can just paint it straight as you want. Just paint it, you know, however you want. You don't have to get this fancy with it if you want to call this fancy. But I thought I would just kind of show you this. I think it's kind of fun. So for my airbrush, I'm just going to be using a Badger. This is a Renegade Chrome. So I have my compressor set to about 15 psi. It's actually pretty low psi. And then for the mixture, I'm going to do about half and half. So I'm going to go ahead and put about in my little mixing cup on the airbrush. Just going to put in about half of that's going to be my thinner. And then my other half will be my actual primer. Then I'll just mix it up with my dropper here. And we kind of give this a little bit of a test run. Okay. So next up, I'm going to go ahead and paint the skin tone. So I'm going to start by using a dark color, and then I'm going to lighten it up as I go. So I'm going to use a little bit of this Mr. Color. This is reddish brown or red brown. I'm going to put that in my cup here. Okay, well now that we have sort of the base coats on, I'm going to go ahead and do some brush work now. I'm going to start with his hair, get his hair in, and then we'll move on to maybe his shirt and stuff, and then we'll do the face features last. Well, alright, I think that's about all I'm going to do for this in terms of painting. I think he looks okay. So let me go ahead and move on to my next step. And while this dries, I'm going to fashion, he's got his little goggles here, or his glasses, and I have some wire, and I think I'm just going to go ahead and make a little frame for it real quick. This is just I think this is maybe like an aluminum wire I have on my scrap box, and then I'll just go ahead and I'll kind of shape it and cut it, and we'll see if we can fit it around his head. Alright, so I'm just going to put it kind of on the glasses like that, and I'm going to bend it from this side. Something like that. And I'll do the same thing on this side. Okay. And then I'll just snip this off for now, back about here. Okay. So I think the best way to glue this on is just going to be to use some 5-minute epoxy. That'll be the strongest. So what I need to do though is I need to kind of set this up so that I can arrange it, because I can't just hold it on there with my fingers. It just won't work. So I'm just going to try to get some tape here. Put this on this little card. Let me mix some epoxy up. All right, I let this cure overnight, so I think it's good to go. Let me pull this tape off of here. And there's his little glasses. And now we'll just go ahead and fit these on his head, and then I'll trim them. And I'll probably put a little bit of paint on these also. Okay. I think I'll trim them right about here. Okay. I think you bent a little bit. And then now once again I'm going to use my JB Weld 5-minute epoxy just to glue his glasses on. I'm going to put a little bit, I already got it mixed here, put a little bit behind his ear here. All right, dude. Can't say he's the coolest looking guy around, but he's okay. There's going to be a whole lot of shaking going on, so I better get this glued on here nicely. All right then, well, I had fun doing that. You know, I realize it's a lot of detail for just a RC plane, considering it's in a cockpit and it's going by and everything, and it's not the main thing that we do, but I had fun putting them together and painting them and such. And the thing I did want to note is that when I was painting, I was doing time lapse because it was taking a long time, you know, when I'm painting. And then I realized when I went back to look at it to produce this video, you couldn't see a lot of the detail and such of what I was doing, so I apologize for that. So when you were going through that part of the video, it probably wasn't very useful. But what I can do is I have another kit, and if this is something that interests people, if I get some feedback on it, maybe I'll do another one someday. But yeah, that's just the way it kind of turned out. But in any case, so now I'm going to go ahead and mount this. This was the 1/5 scale Sportsman Pilot from Williams Brothers, and I'm going to go ahead and mount this in the current build that I'm doing, which is the Stingray. It was the Balsa USA Stingray 120. I'll mount them in the canopy, and that'll be my next video coming up. So join me for that. And like always, I appreciate you watching my channel, and we will see you next time.